Hello. Come on in. Come on in. How are you? How are you? How are you? So glad to have you here. Thank you for joining me on the Best Investments. It is another Thursday. We're almost close to the weekend. Very excited about that, but it's always an even greater opportunity to share with you all what God has given me, share with you all some topics that I know are very important to women. They're very important to me. I know they're important to my friends because we're talking about some of these same things that we're talking about on the live. So, want to absolutely welcome you all. Thank you for joining. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am so excited about my topic today and about this segment. When we think about, I don't even want to get started right now. I'll wait until we get right into it. But before we get into it, I want to welcome you all again. Thank you so much for joining. If you don't know me, it's your first time on the live. My name is Mona-Lee Belizaire. I am a personal growth strategist, and I help young adult women move from where they are to where they want to be. They're typically struggling with direction, trying to figure some things out, whether it's in their career or their personal lives. And they just need a coach, need a mentor, they need someone to support them. And so that is where I come in. If you are have not visited my website, please do so, monaleebelizaire.com. I have a free gift for you once you get on the site. I think you will absolutely love it. This season, I worked specifically on developing a vision statement, for my life. And so that has been pivotal for me in this season because it is something that I look at, I think about before when I'm making decisions. So I welcome you all to take a look at that. I'm also the creator of the I Am Choosing Me movement. So that is a movement that's designed specifically for women to encourage us, right, to choose ourselves consistently and in every area of our lives. We don't choose ourselves enough. We're either always choosing somebody else or doing a lot, right? And so we don't get a chance to always choose ourselves. And so I Am Choosing Me is more than just self-care. It's more than just going to get your nails done. It's more than just going to the spa or going to dinner. It's more than that. I Am Choosing Me really specifically focuses on encouraging women to think about how they can use practical everyday strategies in every area of their lives, right, to choose themselves. And so I just wanted to share that with you all. So today we're going to be talking about create and creating. I had shared earlier this week in a post when I was introducing the topic, the first thing that I thought about, right, is that God is our creator. God is the creator. He created us. He created the earth. He created the universe. God is our creator. And we are made in his image. And so if we're made in his image, that means we are called to create as well. So he created us to create. And so if you think about it, when we think about inventions, when we think about anything from cars to planes to new to fidget spinners to new new mattresses, whatever, we can think about any tangible object, right, that we can think about that someone developed, someone created, that came from God. Why? Because he is our ultimate creator and he's designed us to create. And so a lot of times as people, we don't always think that we can create. We always think that creating is specifically designed for those creatives, or it's put in a box around a graphic designer or a web designer. We don't think that we are called to create. And creating something means to produce something. It means to be fruitful in whatever you are doing. That is what creating means. And so we can create in varying amounts of spaces in our lives. We can create in our schools. We can create in our jobs, right? When we come up with that new idea, we're creating something that's never been done before, whether it's a new processes or a new project. we're creating something. And so one of the first things I want to do is sort of dispel and debunk the myth about what creating really means. Because like I said before, we are all called to create. That means God has deposited something in us, right? He's deposited them in our spirit. He's given us gifts. And those gifts are what we're supposed to use in order to create, in order to produce, in order to generate. And so if that, I want, for those of you who are on the live, I want you to put in the comments, what has God called you to create? I want you to take some time to think about it. Also, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop questions in there. Think about and drop in the comments what God has called you to create. It doesn't have to be specifically in this season. It could just be in general, right? A lot of us have desires and passions and goals. We may not have been able to move towards them just as yet, but we still have them. And God is calling us to create. I know specifically for me in this season, God is definitely doing a lot around me, creating a space where women can feel free to share, and creating a space where women can feel like they can choose themselves, and creating a space where we're talking about some of the things that we don't always get to talk about as women. And so, transitioning into this space of working with young adult women specifically around personal growth and strategizing around that, it has really got my creative juices flowing. New ideas are always popping up, new topics and how new things can be addressed. And so, creating doesn't always have to necessarily mean something that you can hold on to, as well as in like a tangible object, something that you produce or create, you can move around. Creating, you can also create an atmosphere, right? For those of you who are familiar with the Bible, you know that environment was very important in the Bible. Atmosphere was very important. The Lord was not shy about moving people around several times, right? Because we right are called to bring the kingdom of God with us, on earth. That's a part of our job. And so we are creating an environment where people can feel comfortable. We're creating an environment where people can feel like, man, this is a good place for me to be in. This is a good space. I want to be around these people. I want to learn. I want to grow. So if you have anything that you feel that God is calling you to create in this season, I want you to drop it in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Please share with me. And I'm going to just transition right into talking a little bit about our speaker today, our guest. So my guest is my friend, Leonetha Francis. We've been friends for a couple of years now. We met at church. And so when I thought about create, and I thought about someone who is in the creative space, someone who serves God, believes in God, someone who is who's not afraid to step out and do something different, that is the person. I could not have thought about a better person. And so I am so excited to have her specifically with me, with us tonight. She has definitely been in a space where when you think about create and you think about creating, she is someone that she's going to drop some nuggets about that. And so I don't want to cheapen the opportunity to have her come in. So I'm going to go ahead and let her in right now. Oh, thank you so much, Rashida, for sharing. A space for moms and motherhood is my space right now. Hello, Leah.
Hi, Mona. I feel like
How are you?
I'm all over the place today, but I'm here. I'm excited
Amen.
to be here with you all. I am. I literally just ran in the house from being in traffic.
Great. Well, listen, it's like that sometimes, but I'm so glad that you were able to join me, and we're just gonna have a great conversation.
Absolutely. Let's talk like we always do.
That's good. So I was just telling the folks a little bit about you, how we met, but I want to give you some space for you to share specifically who is Leonetha Francis.
Leonetha Francis, let's go here. I'm a lot of things, but one, I am an entrepreneur. So That's like the thing that has always been in my bloodline. I really feel that very strongly. And the more I find out about my heritage, I do find out that I come from entrepreneurs. My great grandfather on my dad's side owned a bakery and built his own church because they wouldn't let him preach in his church. So, and then on my mom's side, my grandmother, she used to sew dresses and then sell them to retail stores. So I've always had, I guess I come from it. Well, not I guess, I do come from it. So I'm an
Uh-huh.
entrepreneur. I'm a native New Yorker. I'm a visionary. I am a child of God mostly. I'm a believer. And I think that's what fuels most of everything that I do, because in order to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a tad bit crazy and you have to have an exponential amount of faith. And I believe it's my faith that has like just given me this vision. Like I've always seen more for myself. And growing up, I was always called the bougie one, the uppity one. You know, people always say that, but I always just felt like I don't belong here. I belong in somewhere better. Like I always
Mm,
visions of grandeur for my life. And I wasn't going to stop until I got it, because I'm like, if they have it, whoever they was at that time, I can have it too.
right.
And at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, I'm just a Pentecostal girl from the Bronx that loves Jesus. Ain't nothing special. So God shines his light on me just as much as he shines on others.
Amen. That's good. Well, that is a perfect introduction and a perfect segue. And I love what you mentioned. You talked about that you knew that you were, you're called to entrepreneurship. And a part of being an entrepreneur is you have to create something that is not there. It doesn't mean that you are forfeiting what may already be there. It could be that you're improving on something that is already there, but you're creating something that has never been there before. So when you think about create, what does that mean to you? And how do you define the word create?
So the way I define creating is not only creating something that isn't there, but it's really um tapping into a need that people didn't know that they needed. Oftentimes when we create
Mm,
this or we start things, we say answer a question or fill a need in order to make money. In order for you to be profitable, you need to fill a need, or you need to find something that hasn't been done. And I think when we think about creating, we often think about like artsy fartsy Woodstock kind of people. You have to be hippie, you have to be bohemian or whatever. But there are creators in the C-suite, right? There are creators who create different
yes.
ways of thinking, different ways of operation, different ways of maintaining business or managing business or streamlining it, becoming agile. That's what project managers are for. You know, that's what
Yes.
operations do. So I don't want us to get tied into like, if I'm not a painter, if I'm not an illustrator, if I'm not a fashion,
Exactly.
a fashion designer, if I don't do graphic or web, that's not creative.
Yes.
You have a way to create. If God has called you to be an accountant, the way you add numbers and the way you think about numbers, you may have a way that you do math that's different than someone else's. You may have a way
Hmm.
that create a different system. The Dewey Decimal System. My first job was at the New York Public Library. And so somebody named Dewey Decimal came up with this system for how to categorize books according to subject, according to these decimal points. And so somebody
Hmm.
had to create that. That's the point that I'm making.
Mm.
Think about creating. I think about either one, creating, reinventing the wheel, or creating a better mousetrap, because it's oftentimes that the shoebox is out, right? The shoebox that was somebody
Yeah.
figure out somewhere to put our shoes. Now, my late grandmother, who just passed this past September, she has a patent for the invisible shoebox, which was essentially a see-through shoebox. So you can see your shoes without having to like lift up the lid and, oh, whose shoebox is it?
Hmm.
What
Hmm.
that? And so it wasn't creating the reinventing the wheel, it was just creating a better mousetrap. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like creation is either answering a problem or developing a new solution to something.
I love, love, love what you said. And I love especially when you said it doesn't have to be painting or designing or anything like that. And that's where we get caught up in this creates and, this creative movement. Before you got on, I was saying, anything that God has deposited in us, any gifts, any desires, anything, that is a part. We create in our schools, we create in our homes, we create atmospheres.
We
And
create,
the atmosphere.
right? We create children, we create relationships,
Hmm.
we create patterns. All it is what we're all it is us taking something and making it. I don't. It's just take. It's just making something essentially, right? Because I can take
Yep.
you and I can make you're my friend, but I can also now create a sisterhood relationship between the two of us. I've created something there. I've
Yep.
created energy, I've created accountability, I've created community. And so I think a lot of times we get caught up, like I said before, in just like what society has said. It has to be something technical or a gift or things. But some people have, you know, they can create organizing systems for their homes. You know, some people create relationships, some people create great marriages, create great families, create
Yes.
ministry.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what do you think are great tools, or what do you need in order to create? Like, what is, if there's a secret sauce or there's something that you need, what is it?
I need peace in order to create, right? Like for me, I do. I can create now. I being in public relations, so I have a public relations background before I got into like, you know, the whole tech space, creative entrepreneurship thing. And in that public relations, you kind of thrive off of the adrenaline that pumps from like creating things. But what I created there was you create systems, you create flows, you create relationships with people, you create
Hmm. Yep.
this reputation of I'm going to get it done, I'm going to make it happen. And so, but then after that, you need to decompress. And if I can just throw this out there, I'm actually an introvert, right? One would never believe that I'm an introvert, but I classify myself as an introvert. So for me, I really need to be left alone a lot. I can't have like a lot of people in my space when I'm trying to figure things out. Like I just need to be alone to ideate. Maybe it's watching movies, perhaps it's just watching TV. I enjoy long car rides. And so as I'm driving, I'm thinking and I'm clear and I'm
Mm.
God and I'm worshiping and I'm just having my moments. I'm meditating. That is when I create. I create a lot around about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning when I should be sleeping and I can't turn my brain off. So for me, it's more so peace. It's the solitude of being alone. And then I like to bounce ideas off of other people. I think as long as I can create, because I somewhere or another in the hemisphere or whatever in the earth realm, I've become like that go-to person. I usually have, most people have questions. I generally have the answers. I don't know how that happened, but it happens. And so in order for me to be in a space where I can have the answers, I need to be somewhere where I'm like aligned so that
Hmm.
I'm like, cool. All right, we got this. Let's do this. And my new mantra now is, you know, we're not going to cry. We're just going to rise. So whenever things are happening really, really fast and I'm like, what the heck is going on? Instead of crying about a situation, I'm just going to rise to the demand of the situation.
That's good. That's good. And you mentioned long, well, I'm an introvert as well too. I gain my energy from from inward. So, I'm a homebody. I like my bed, all of that. That's me. But you mentioned long car rides, and it gives you an opportunity to talk with God. It gives you an opportunity to commune with your creator, to speak with them about next steps, what it is that he's called you to do. How does God being our creator impact our ability to create?
I think it gives us limitless confidence, right? Because in order to be able to create something and put it out there, you have to be able to stand by it and own it. Like, I'm not
Mm,
a
that's good.
one who's like, hey, I'm selling this, you know, cell phone case. It covers your phone. It's going to protect it from breaking. Like, you don't sound confident about it. And I don't know, you know,
Mm,
God gave you an
that's
idea.
good.
He's giving you confirmation and affirmation about this is it. I'm like, hey, look, I got this ice cream that I'm selling. You know, I infuse it with, you know, fine wines and spirits, and you should have it because it's amazing. Because I'm standing on that confidence that God gave me this whole concoction to create and stuff like that. And so I believe that
Mm,
when we create, when with God being our ultimate creator, we see what he's done with us, right? How meticulous he's been to number the hairs on our head, how meticulous he's been
yes.
know how tall we're going to grow, our birth dates and all these things. Like God is a computer that doesn't need to keep updating himself. And so if you could just think about that, right? Like how we are
Good.
earth, and he sticks a cord down the center of it, and he calls it gravity. And so at no point in time is anyone falling off the sides of the earth, but we're all just walking, right? If we look down, we're not going to see people in Australia's feet. They're not going to see our feet, but nobody falls off of the earth. You know what I'm saying? Like, gravity is strong enough to hold us in place, but doesn't pull clouds down out of heaven. And so it's like, if you think about that, Matthew 6 says, if he watches over every sparrow, how much more does he love us? You know what I'm saying? If he
Exactly. Yep.
with beauty and splendor. I take long car rides, so if you look at just how things are created and you watch how
Yep. The intricacies of things.
the intricacies of it, and you're like, who could have come up with this? Like,
It's
if you've ever
something like
like
that.
seen
Yeah.
that and see just how the colors fill the sky, like, our creator that created us also created everything else that's around us. You can't help but to have confidence knowing that he's given me this idea, he's given me this creation, he's given me this solution.
Yeah.
And creating is not always about making something new. Sometimes it's improving on what's there. So if he's giving you an idea, if he's giving you a methodology of how to think about something, you have to run with it, and you have to know, because again, entrepreneurship, creativity, you got to have confidence. And if you don't have confidence, it's hard to get other people to believe in what you're doing and to join in with what you're doing. And so when I'm confident that the one who created the breath that you're breathing gave this to me, and you ain't died in front of me yet, come on, buy this ice cream. Come on, buy this painting.
Right. Right. What else do we need? And when you think about it too, you think about the intricacies, you think about how God designed everything. It gives you such a sense of awe. Like for me, I always want to be in a space where I'm always in awe of God. I never want to get comfortable with anything that he gives me or anything that he's doing. I always want to be like, well, what's next? Wow me even more, because as you said, he is limitless. So there is some things that we have not experienced.
He wows me every day. Every day I wake up and I just think about the notion. Like I start rabbit holing, right? Like the fact that I have this sense to know that I'm awake. That awes me.
Yep.
Because is there ever going to be a day when I know that my eyes don't open? Do we know that our eyes don't open? Like things like that, I just begin to sit and wonder. And I saw my god sister posted the other day, like, who built bridges? When we think about that, like some of the biggest bridges that we've seen, who
Right.
And so God had to give somebody the creative knowledge in order to build a bridge. It's just so amazing. Like you said, no matter no matter how simple it is that we try to focus on something, we're just like, wow, like, you know, if I rip skin on my hand, the fact that it heals and the fact that the cells come back together, man, listen, God blows
And they clot. I mean, all of it.
all of it.
All of it. So we're sitting and we're talking a lot about faith because it is the cornerstone of us and our ability, to create, our ability to produce in whatever situation we are, and whatever we are doing. So how does your faith inspire you to create or to continue to create?
My faith, because let me tell you something. I've created so many things that just didn't work out. Like if I be 100% honest, I don't want everybody to think that because you got God, you're gonna create things and it's gonna shoot to the moon right away all the time. That's not it. I have
You can lay hands on it and be like, in the name of Jesus.
Listen, some things you can plead the blood on. You could call it forfeit. It's still gonna lay right there and look right back at you. Be like, sis, I'm done. I don't have nothing else. I ain't got it. This ain't it. Go back to the drawing. And so you got to go back to your prayer closet. You got to go back to your whiteboard. You got to go back to your Post-it notes and be like your journal and just sit there with it sometimes. And there's times, running full steam ahead. Yeah, God gave me this vision. I'm going to run it. I'm going to run.
You're so excited. You're like, everybody's going to get this.
I'm pulling her back or 2 and 4. I'm going to write the vision. I'm going to make it plain and I'm going to tell everybody. And then that one counter voice that you get causes you to crumble. And then, you don't get some family support. And I just want to tell a lot of entrepreneurs out here, a lot of things, you're going to get strangers to support. Strangers make millionaires, not your family. Like, just get that out of your mind. Like, strangers will make you millions, not your family. It's going to be nice, but your family's not going to support you till they see other people supporting you, until you get a stride. But, to your question, how does my faith play into my creativity? To be honest, it keeps me going when I want to quit. There are days when I lay in this bed and I'm like, I don't want to do it. I had a situation yesterday where I had been sampling, like mailing ice cream to certain people to see how it's going to work, what's going to cost me. And it did not arrive when the carrier told me it was going to arrive. It arrived 24 hours later, and I was just biting my nails and nervous the whole time. And when it arrived, it did not arrive in the shape that I needed it to be in, and I just wanted to melt into my couch. And I was ready to close up shop and do everything, and then I just had to take a break. My faith also is a bit of consciousness, right? Because if we have the Holy Spirit, it will keep us. I just knew I needed to walk away for a little bit. I went to Walmart,
Yeah.
Target, went to look around, walk around, and then I had to buy some toiletries. And when you look at all the other brands that are out there, and you say to yourself, they all serve the same purpose.
Yep,
And
they do.
it's easy to get discouraged and be, I don't have to do this. I don't want to do this. Or, somebody else is going to beat me doing this. These companies are doing it bigger than me, but these companies have been around longer than I have. And so those types of things, just sometimes just really listening to my body, listening to the spirit, to just take breaks at times. So I think a lot of times we focus on the creative energy, and social media will tell you, like, if you sleeping, that you're not hustling hard enough. Social media tell you if you don't take a day off, you're not working.
Lies.
Those are all lies from the pit, and those are lies from their mouths too, right? Because you need to break. You need to take a break. You can't create if your head is hurting. You can't create if you haven't slept. Some people are dreamers, right? For some people, it comes
Mm.
to visions. And so if you're not sleeping, sweetheart, how are you going to
You're
get
not rested.
not resting? How are you going to be able to
Yep.
make sound decisions when it comes to business? How are you going to be able to be decisive if you haven't slept, if you haven't nourished yourself, if you're just running off of caffeine? And so the way my faith plays a role in that, it also just reminds me to recenter myself, to understand that all things lawful are not expedient. It's not all going to happen overnight, even though I serve a radical
Mm.
God who can do radical things for me. To also understand that I gotta work the field. You gotta till, because just like we serve a God of abundance, but we also serve a God of order.
Yep.
And he
Mm-hmm.
orders our steps, and you got to be diligent. And they said this, if you're faithful over a few things, he'll make you ruler over many. But in order to be faithful over a few things, that requires work,
Yep.
and that
Mm-hmm.
requires
Yep. The stewardship part. It's a stewardship part.
right. That stewardship, that requires consistency, that requires you creating healthy habits, that requires you creating
Yep.
healthy patterns, that requires you creating consistency and methods of consistency. And so I think that's how it does. My faith is allowed to be made practical through my creativity. I'll put it to you that way. I'm allowed to make the
That's
word
true.
more practical. I'm allowed to take the pages, because everybody got the book, everybody can read the Bible, but read the pages in the book. Like, read the pages. In the pages, when you really start walking out those pages and the words that's on the,
Yep.
you stop stressing over things. I
Yep.
was
You have the true rest in God. You understand what that really means.
You really understand what it means to rest in him. You understand that literally all things work together for your good, and it may not
Mm.
feel good. And every heartache, every eviction notice, because listen, I'm talking to creators, and so we don't put our money where our heart is over where our mind should be, right? And so every eviction notice, every repossession, everything that's come at us, it all works together for our good, as long as we just stick to it and we continue to trust the creator who created us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the rest is so important because we have to make sure that we are disciplined. We are good stewards over what God has given us. And one of the things that I'm even saying to myself in this season is you have to remember the seek ye first part. And some of these things God puts in us, God gives us, but that's not even the first priority. There are some other things that God has said, listen, this is what I've really, really called you to do. All that other stuff is extra, but I need you to focus on what it is that I've called you to do, and then all the other stuff you don't have to worry about those types of things. And we
You're,
get it backwards sometimes.
you're preaching to the choir. I was in a season where God really had to shut a whole lot down, and I'm single, so I like to date. I want to do stuff. And God is like, yeah, you want your cake and you want to eat it at the same time, but there are things that I'm requiring of you right now. And so that
Mhm.
required me to really shut myself out from a lot of things and from a lot of people. It required me to get on my face. It required me to reinstate
Mhm.
fasting days, to really show God that I was seeking him first, like you said, to really
Mhm.
show that he was a priority. And then he brought me to a place of repentance, because he said, you put everything else in front of the creativity that I've given you. You've put everything else. Like, I was resting on the fact that, like, yeah, I can do this. Yeah, I'm doing this. That's that. But I really wasn't owning it. I was showing up very, very small. I was showing up as a 4. And so now I'm in a space
Mhm.
now where it's like I need to play on the level as a 10, or to the best of my ability. And even if right now in this season I'm only doing a,
Yeah,
I'm still showing up bigger than how I've been, because I don't want to insult God and the gifts that he's put in me
that's good.
by showing up small and playing safe. I don't want to insult him by saying, you gave me this business, but I'm scared to scale it. Like, when I tell you entrepreneurship has stretched me, it'll stress you out. Yes, STRESS, but it will also
Mhm.
SRECT. Y'all know how to spell it, stretch. It will also
You see,
stretch as well.
stretch, stretch, and stress.
It's going to stress you and it's going to stretch you. But when it stretches you, it's going to stretch you and force you to grow into different places. And I believe your word on last week was perspective. And I had posted something about perspective too, because a lot of times
Yes.
we have to change how we look at it. It's stressful, but I had to say, no, I am afforded the opportunity to feel the demands of what it is that God has given me. And I can
Yep.
feel it now because he's gifted that to me. And what if God never gifted me with something? There are some people my age and older and I'm in my 30s, who are still asking God, what have you created me to do? And the fact that I'm in my early 30s and I was able to discover what it is that God has me to do, that's a blessing right there.
Yes. Absolutely.
But that,
Absolutely. And then
keeping him first, not only keeping him first, but seeking him in this process has been like amazing, game changing.
yep, absolutely. And I think even just
Hey,
outside of entrepreneurship, when we think about creating atmospheres, creating spaces in our families, as you talked about, like creating friendships, right? Those things stretch us, they stress us as well too, but it's a part of our journey because a part of what God has given us is community. And so it's our responsibility to show what the kingdom of heaven is supposed to look like on earth. And so we are, as we're all figuring it out, but as we're putting God first, we're getting a better understanding. And you hit on this next question a little bit, specifically about what motivates you when you get into those places where you're just like, I'm not feeling it, I don't know. But what are some practical strategies you can share on what motivates you, what keeps your creative juices flowing?
practical strategies, I would say, when you're feeling like you're at a rut, shut everything off, right?
Mm,
A lot of people want, shut it off. Turn the laptop off, turn the computer off. If it's the TV, turn the TV off. Silence out a lot of things. Take a nap. There's some times where creativity gets stressful, and take a nap. Like, it is okay. I also have some ratchet podcasts that I listen to kind of like just help me escape. But hearing other people's lifestyles and different things also helps me to create, because now I'm creating with more than just a monolith in mind. Other
yep.
things I do, talking with family that have, I mean, just sometimes text a friend and just see how they're doing, like really taking a trip, or not, and not a physical trip, but just going somewhere else. Sometimes I will watch old movies that I know the lines to and just recite them out loud, sit here, laugh at myself all over again. I've seen Tyler Perry plays a gazillion and one times, but I'll watch him again because it's comfort, because it's familiar,
Mhm.
and it puts me in a happy place, and it'll help me decompress. Um, I'm a cigar girl, so I'll puff a cigar every now and then. It just helped me like woosah and think and make me more reflective. For other people though, I have a friend of mine. She goes every morning. She does this thing, morning refreshing. I'm gonna shout her out, Carissa Dene. Her Instagram handle is 7 by 30, and she does a lot of mindfulness and intentionality as a Christian.
Mm.
But every morning she gets up and she does these morning refreshings where she literally runs outside barefoot and lets the ground wake her up.
Mm.
Um, One of these days I may join her. I don't know. But like, just trying things that are out of the loop, whatever it is that makes you feel good in those moments. You'd be surprised how the simplest thing, going to go get some froyo, stand in line, you can see a family in front of you, the child will say something to their parent, it'll cause you to just like aha moment. And so
Yep.
coloring, I would say, like, if you're in a creative space where you're in a C-suite and you're operational, maybe you need to paint. Maybe you need to go take a trip to Michael's and go find something in there and just get it. Hobby Lobby. There's so many different things, I think. And I will also stress finding a hobby that has absolutely
Yes.
nothing to do with what you know.
Do.
Um,
Do. Yep.
One of my hobbies is actually learning about fine wines and spirits. And
Mm.
I want to learn like the distilling process and the difference between whiskey with the EY and the difference between whiskey with the Y. One is American, one is Irish, right? So it's like finding out those little fun facts, whatever it is. Maybe it's spending time with godchildren, grandchildren, or your actual children. Just decompressing and unplugging. I would say that sometimes when you're not thinking about it, that's when all the answers that you need will hit you.
Absolutely. And we talked a lot about rest, but one of the things that we don't always do the best at as women is that we don't find rest throughout our day. And so, the busyness of the world makes us feel like we have to be busy. And so by the time we've done everything for everybody else, we've put the children to bed, we've put the husband to bed, and we're trying to go to bed. Now we can't go to bed. We can't go to bed at all because our minds are all over the place. And I think a part of it is that we haven't trained our minds and we haven't trained our bodies to truly rest. And that's something, and that can come in the form of a hobby too, because we feel like, I remember even for myself, sometimes I would be like, like I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, isn't there something for you to do? Like you don't have something to do. And sometimes like, I know there's always something to do, right? But you don't have to do it. It could just mean that like you're sitting in that moment and you're just settling yourself. Like you're not doing the most at that point.
Yeah, I would say creating boundaries. Healthy boundaries is something that I would say helps you to kind of curtail some of that. So for me, it's like
Mm-hmm.
at text messages that are coming in like right now and saying, I don't need to respond to that right now. Like literally starting to program yourself and saying like,
Yep.
that's not important. It can wait. Like literally
Wait.
telling your phone, it can wait. If you're driving and driving is your me time and someone is texting you, having that firm boundary, like I'm not answering text messages before 10 o'clock in the morning because this is my me time, that do that helps. Like I would strongly encourage that. I know, like I put my phone on do not disturb. My phone immediately goes into do not disturb from 10 p.m. at night to whatever alarm I have set for the next day. And then there's some morning
Mm-hmm.
before the alarm and it'll ask like, do you want to turn it off? And I'm like, no, I want to leave it on until I'm ready to take it off and be disturbed with the dings and stuff like that. So I think setting healthy boundaries also helps with the rest part of it and also
Yep.
helps like decompressing and being able to get rest, because you have to be able to like turn your phone off at times. Like at night, that's one of my reasons that I'm always up late, because I'm constantly just scrolling and flicking, and we don't realize that the technology on our phone actually keeps our eyes up, like it keeps our brain awake subconsciously. So just a simple turning the phone face down, even if you have to have it in the bed with you, like turn it face down. Now you'd be surprised how fast you actually fall asleep and stuff like that, and then things just like don't matter. And honestly, at the end of the day, I used to do like that mental checklist, like, is it done? Did I finish this? Did I do that? I've gotten to the place like tomorrow worry about itself. And that's by
Listen, absolutely.
about itself.
Absolutely. It's still there. And
It's
and it will get done when it's supposed to get done. It's a part of the prioritizing
because here's
too.
the thing. If God forbid something happens to you within the next 24 hours, whatever responsibilities they will find someone else to do it. And I
They
always,
absolutely will.
when you call people, especially when you call like your property management company or certain companies, certain industries, right? They'll say, if this is an emergency,
Emergency.
hang up.
Please call 911.
So you're not going to call me and tell me this is an emergency. No, no, no. Hang up. and call 911, because I'm not going to allow your urgency to become my emergency. Like, we're not going to do that either. And again, that goes with healthy boundaries. That doesn't mean you love people any less. It doesn't mean you're not in community.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that you're not there and you're not supportive. But it's also understanding about how much you can bear on yourself. He's never going to put more on us than we can bear. But sometimes we become the bag lady as women, and we take on things that ain't got nothing to do with us.
Not one. Absolutely.
Not
Absolutely.
it has nothing to do with us. You know, I had a girlfriend, and she's seeing someone with children, and she was saying something about the children's mother. I said, hey, that has nothing to do with you. You're taking on too much. Like, you're taking
Mhm.
on too much. Just relax. Your focus is you and him right here.
Right, exactly. And
Now,
it doesn't give us room to commune with God, commune with our creator. And so we're limiting all the things that he's called us to do. It's limiting our ability to create, our time to create when we're all, like when we're all over the place. So I really like what you mentioned about that. And as we're coming to a close and drawing up here a little bit, I wanted to so your experience is you're creative, you create in different ways, and you mentioned some really great ways that even people who are not in the entrepreneurial space or in the creative space, right? How we all create. So what do you say to someone who feels like they don't have anything to create, who feels like there's nothing that I have that may be of value, or they may say, well, Mona-Lee and Leah, what does that mean for, for me who may, the average woman, what do I create? Where do I start?
say that, number one, there's nothing average about anyone. We're all above average.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of discovery. And so I wouldn't say that you don't have anything to create. I would say that you haven't discovered what it is that you're intended to create just yet. And because
That's
we all
good.
have potential on the inside of us, that pearl of potential, right? We all have that on the inside of us. And I think it takes some time. It takes some introspection. Absolutely. It
Mm-hmm.
takes self-awareness to kind of discover what you have the tolerance for, what you have the patience for, what you may be good at, what you may be beneficial at. And a lot of times it may actually take some honest conversation with loved ones and trusted individuals to point out to us what they
Good.
and good at, because we're so blinded by everything else we have going on. We don't see that, hey, you show up every time something is going on with one of your friends, and maybe you just have an excellent presence of being there for people. You know what I'm
That's
saying? You may not
good.
have exact words, but you may not bring food to everything, but you show up and people appreciate your presence, and your absence is always felt. And so I think it just comes to a conversation sometimes with some trusted individuals. And one thing I would commission to people listening is, you have 5 trusted friends, and 5, maybe 7, however many, right? Your closest friends that you really, really value their opinions, whether it's friends or family or even colleagues, and say,
Mm-hmm.
how am I showing up to you? Or how am I showing up
Mm.
for you? And let that, take those responses. Don't, remove your filters when you read it back. Don't read it back in any type of tones. Don't project your emotions onto whatever they say, but really look at it. Look for a common thread that's said amongst it. And if people are constantly saying, like, you're an amazing supporter, I appreciate your encouragement, I appreciate, how you push me, how you're always there, that could be
Yep.
something.
Very consistent.
Creative, that could be what you're created for, is to be an encouragement
Mm.
to someone. Everyone's not
Yeah.
created to be in the forefront, but everyone is created to do something. And maybe your creation, maybe your creativity is, you have very unique ways of showing up for people who need you the most. You
That's good.
People who are absolutely gifted in supporting people and being support staff, administrators, executive assistants, and they have everything, like that, because
Yep.
that's what they do. And it doesn't take away from who they are. It's just what they're called to do. It's what they're gifted to do. They can create that space for themselves. They create their power in the fact that they hold everyone else together. And so I would just say, like, ask the top, 5 people. I would say no more than 10. But if you're like me, you'll probably run down like 20 people or something like that. And find what's, and this is not a homework assignment. It's not make or break. It's not going to end a relationship or anything like that. And just see what's common,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
and see what's common. And I believe what's common. And then after that, if you're a person of faith, because everyone may not be of, the same faith that we are. But if you're a person of faith, I would say pray on it, meditate on it, and ask, how can I really show up in this way for people? Is there a creative space for this, for me to do that? And if yours is
Mhm.
showing up for people, maybe it becomes, you make the greatest baskets when you're showing up for people. You bring great gifts when you come over for people. I mean, for me, I love giving gifts. And so I like to just make sure I'm listening to tiny details. I like to go the extra mile to
Mhm.
make sure things are done. And that could be somebody else's gifting to make sure that that's done. So I just want you to know that your gifting, or what you're created for doesn't always have to be what you create, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
What you're created for may not be to make cakes. It may not be to give a tangible item. What you're created for may be something that's just is there, your presence, your
Yep.
energy.
Your personality, who you are as
That
a,
is
yep.
the gift itself. You were created for, because you are the gift.
That's good. That is good. And such a great closeout. I love it, love it, love it. So where can the people find you, Leah?
Y'all can find me at leonetha.com. It's under construction. I'm like 60% finished with the new website. I just did some rebrand photo shoots. You can find me at Being Leah on all social media platforms. That's Twitter, Instagram. I barely use my Snapchat. Um, and I'm on Facebook. Yeah, Being Leah on Facebook. And on the record, I don't have a TikTok account.
Well, listen, it was such a pleasure to have you. We had an amazing conversation talking about what it means to create, talking about creating, talking about moving forward as women, and what are the spaces that God has called us to create. As we mentioned at the top of this segment, that God is our creator and we were created to create. So everything that we have seen, everything that we see on a daily basis, somebody created it and God gave them the ability and has given us something. And so as we, if you're watching this on the replay, absolutely drop some notes in the comments as well. And please make sure that you follow Leah and share with us what do you feel God has called you to create. One of the most important things for us to do is to make sure that we are asking God what he has called us to do, and that we are open to receiving, because a lot of times we ask and then we don't recognize that all the signs are there. They have already been there. We're looking for something else, and so it's incumbent upon us. And I love what you said, Leah, about asking other people as well too. What do they have to say? A lot of times some of the things come so natural to us, we don't see them as gifts. We don't see them, as creative opportunities. We just see them as this is a part of us. But
Mm,
people see them in a different light. And so it's important for us to hone in on those skills too, and see how they can be useful for other people, because that's our whole part. That's the whole part of all of this. Our kingdom journey, being kingdom citizens, is for us to serve other people, right? That's a part of it. However that looks like, that's what we're called to do. And
right.
so thank you so much again, Leah.
Thank
Thank you,
you
thank
so
you,
much.
thank you, friend. Yes, for coming on. I really appreciate it. Y'all make sure you follow Leah. Make sure you check out her website when it's up and running, and make sure that you continue to follow me as well and visit my website, Mona-Lee Belizaire.com. Thank you again so much, Leah, and thank you all. And remember, you are the best investment. Take care.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.